We're live, Lensec Live. What's your perspective? Go to lensec.com/live to catch up with all the different episodes. Content of any type of thing in physical security. You can check all those different out, and please share and like today's episode. And I'm excited again to welcome happy holidays to Keith Harris. Keith, I cannot believe we are counting down the days to Christmas, New Year's, all the different holidays coming up. What a great time.
Yes. Bye-bye 2020. Let's get it on behind us. Move on to the next year.
Yeah, let's move on to the next year and see if 2021 will do us well. And we will always have that
Christmas gift. Have a good new year.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. We'll take that, but we'll take all the other great blessings that have happened this year. And we wouldn't have come up with What's Your Perspective. So there you go. Our guest today is the regional sales manager from the South Central region, Mike Deeks. Mike, thanks again stopping by. What's Your Perspective? You're starting to become a regular now.
No, don't go that direction. But no, many thanks. I do appreciate the invitation to speak.
Exactly. And our topic today is access control. And I'm going to tell you, when I listen a lot of times to physical security, the word access control comes up more than anything, even more than I think that VMS does, even more than sometimes even cameras, and especially when they're kind of configuring things. So can you kind of explain to me, Mike, what access control is?
Well, again, access control was, even before the, obviously with the cameras and everything else that we have available, was the security of, a lock and key. As things have moved forward, I mean, a lot of access now is done by what we call the old card swipes. Back in the day of when I was an actual integrator pulling cable, and drilling the doors, it was just a matter of, putting on the door strikes with the electronic opening from a, let's say a magnetic card or even one of the key fobs. So that's what we were always doing back in the day before even, the cameras was really what it is today. Keith also has been around, for many years. So he's seen some changes, but the biggest change to me from what we've seen to where we are now is the partnerships with, other integration companies between the cameras and also with the access control, where you've got the ability to do controlling of both areas for one area to log in. So, when I was, quote, as an installer many years ago, it was a case of you just, use the one avenue, the one area to get into to manage and control the doors. So when cameras came out, it was kind of a separate entity. So it's a big change around. Access control, for the most part, has not changed that much. It's still, the card swipe, whether it's the key fob just in front of the sensor or an actual slot that you put, the key into, i.e. the old hotel rooms where, that is basically access control. You check in, you get your card, you put it in the slot and you walk in. So a lot of changes over the years from where it was to where it is now.
Yeah, certainly. And, cameras used to be an afterthought. I mean, you would put up access control first and make sure that you had good access to your doors, good access, the old-fashioned physical key and lock system is where it all started. And then it eventually started moving over into, a card key or, a slot swipe, where you could insert a card with either a magnetic stripe on it or an RFID chip later. But then now cameras have become more and more crucial in connecting those on the back end with access control. And they don't just operate independently anymore. And cameras are not just an afterthought in a physical security environment. They've become more and more crucial, and you actually change the scenario when you're installing access control that is connected with cameras from a reactive situation where you react to whatever happens by looking at the video and then responding to it after the fact, to now you're actually having a more proactive response when you have your access control connected with cameras and advanced solutions like workflows that can send out notifications and send out alerts to people that that events have occurred, whether it's a forced door or some other type of activity, a door left open. Those things can really trigger quick alerts now and quick responses by security personnel.
Yeah, and also with the camera watching what's going on, when Keith shows his card to the door, we can actually monitor based on that flow. Is that Keith coming through the door? If we need to do some tracing later, well, hold on a minute, that was not Keith that was coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's that play now of both worlds.
My card has my information connected to it. And back in the software, this card that I use to gain access to the Lensec office today has my information. So when I swipe this against the card reader, it shows up in the system connected to me. Nobody else uses this card. This is my card. So now that we have video connected through to the access control, and by such we have the video connected through to my information in the software, we can do a much better job of managing my activity when I'm swiping my card against the door, or if somebody is swiping my card against the door that is not me, that doesn't match me. Now we know that we've got somebody who's unauthorized accessing, acting as me because they have my card.
Which again, I
think definitely. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, Keith, I mean, that's a great point. A lot of the times with the access control portion has not changed that much. It's just with the outputs that it's now providing, that's where the camera, VMSs can come in and actually attach to the outputs. And again, it's opened up a whole new world out there for security around access control.
Definitely. And so we talked a little bit about, already Keith's talking more about video management software, VMS, how it integrates with access control, but it can integrate in two different ways. Mike, explain that.
Well, what we do from Lensec side and with Perspective VMS is the fact that we're able to what we call bi-directional, where we can view the doors, but also within the front end of the access control company. I'll use Galaxy as an example. You can go into Galaxy's front end product and also view the cameras from their door maps. So it's kind of, we can view their access, but at the same time they can view us from their side of things. Now from Perspective, you can actually go into the map, and again, if it works okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
And hopefully this has come across okay, but the screen that you're looking at is the first floor office of at our Houston location, the first floor. And from the product, the icons indicate a live camera image. Again, this is live, not a snapshot, but some of the icons we have.
Go back to that conference room camera. The other one, in the front conference room.
There's Keith.
There's me.
There's Keith.
Hi, guys. That's a live image from Houston, Texas, right there.
That is Keith, a live image.
He ended up flying all the way out to go just for this demonstration.
Yeah.
But Mike, you're driving this from Austin, Texas. Neil, you're seeing it from Pittsburgh. So yeah, we've got that live camera image that we're driving through this.
We've got a global coverage on the call, but the icon that we've got here around the front door, we've got the ability to see, okay, it's the office entrance. I can unlock this door, I can lock it, but I can also pulse the door. So if I'm sitting in the back room, let's say I've ordered pizza for the night, and I get a phone call saying the delivery guy is there, I can just go into Perspective, go ahead and open the door, whether it's the main entrance here or the actual front door. Now with COVID, we have it restricted, so I can actually pulse that door if needed. But
by pulse, you mean?
Pulsing means to make sure the door responds. I mean, you'd hear a clicking sound. So when you're pulsing to make sure the door actually does get recognized. But
so it's a temporary unlock for those who might not know what that means. So it'll unlock the door for maybe 5 seconds or so to allow the visitor to make their entrance. And then when the door closes, it'll lock behind them.
Yeah, perfect. As I say, what that will mean, again, you've got the ability to control that door. But if we wanted to take it to the next step, by looking at our main panel here, we do have the actions and events available to view, but we have something under the door, what we call the door icon with the door valid access. By me clicking on that arrow, that what this actually does is opens what we call the transaction screen. And this is very common, regardless of what's available in the marketplace, where you can see access for different doors throughout the location and from who's coming in. But what we do to take it to that next level is these are individual accesses. Let's say there's Keith, and each time I'm selecting a different timeline, the image will change. So if I wanted to see when Mark came in from the main door, I could play it from here. But at the same time, what I can do is if I wanted to drill this down and not view everything is there, I can go to the filter. I can change the source. I just want to say the main entrance. Now, from this point, I can do a filter and see everyone that's come through the main entrance. But let's say I want to see when Keith came by. So what it's doing is it's taking the information from the access control and doing a filter as to when Keith came through into the office. So if I have an alert from a workflow that said Keith came into the office at 4 o'clock in the morning, I can actually do a search from this point to see exactly what Keith was doing. So I can certainly play the image of Keith coming through the door from here. Now, we are discussing access control, but if we wanted to take it to the next step, I could then view other doors that Keith was going through by looking at what we call the neighboring camera feature as well. But this is a quick overview of what's available from the access control portion for the doors, as opposed to just seeing a report screen that you can print out. This takes it to the next level where you've got the control to see exactly who was coming through at a certain time at a certain door.
Hey, I have a quick question for you. What happens, we see 4 valid accesses there. What happens if the door gets forced open?
That the event will actually get changed. I don't know with what's been going on with COVID if we have any other events that do come up, because obviously we know we're extremely limited on the access to the office, but you would actually get a different message on the event. Now that does play in also to a workflow. You may want to create a workflow that says if such an event occurs, then notify someone, send an email or text to Keith Harris, director of our security or whatever. So you will see other accesses based on the person that's coming through. Whether
if the door gets propped open, I imagine Mark would do that. I would never do that. That wouldn't be.
No, you would, but certainly no.
If there would be not someone else besides me. But if somebody else besides me props the door open so they could carry stuff in and out, what would happen in that scenario?
Yeah. Now again, other information that can show up is shown there as to any other events. So you have a huge selection. I've mentioned Galaxy. That is one of the integrations that we have, but there's many more out there available that we do integrate with. And a lot of the time is, let us know who you're working with as your access control company, and let's have that conversation about the integration as to see what you want to share back and forth. What we do different with Galaxy is bidirectional, and as an end user, that to me is powerful. I've got the ability to control both areas from one screen.
When I think about the cool thing about it as a security director, you can drill down to a specific person that might be not arriving at work on time, or might not be failing to wear a mask, or certain things. We know we have the face mask detection, but we can go back through and see every time that they've arrived or been late or different things, and when they're coming in, and we can just click right on that specific event, right, Mike, and it pulls right up the video.
Yeah, and to say that's the biggest change, I think. When we talk about access control, and then as I'm told by several of the access control companies, it's not really sexy, the open and closed doors. But what we've done is we've taken that that, I suppose, that vision to the next level, where with the cameras, it makes it so much more intuitive to do people tracing, tracking. Where are they going from just a regular card swipe, as Keith showed? It's a big difference over the years. I mean, from when I was doing it to where we are today.
Now let's talk about that for a minute, Mike. I mean, take us back a few years before an integration existed between a video management software and an access control software. I mean, you have two disparate systems that are still doing their job, but what are we missing?
When you say missing, I mean, from back in the day, I mean, setting up an access control system, you had so many choices, whether it be, like a network, or do you want to do a standalone where you've got a control that only controls so many doors? And, then you bring in the door hardware, then you've got to do the door coring, where you get the drill out and actually put all the power through to the door, to the mechanisms. So it was a separate entity back in the day, where
a separate piece of software. I mean, to pull up all the information,
yes,
you have to have a separate piece of software running on the computer. And, so you basically are jumping back and forth between an access control software and a video management software in order to match things up. So it makes it much more complex.
Yeah, and not trying to date myself, but I remember back in the day, standing on a ladder with a connection from you call them laptops, it would have been a luggable now, where you would actually plug that directly into the controller box to do a lot of the management and setting up from that point, unlike what we're doing today through, networks, browser-based products moving forward.
Must have been just after you were playing soccer in England in the 1950s, right?
Yeah.
No, he was playing during the time of Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah, but again, that's when the Pilgrims were coming over. So I was on the boat with the Pilgrims.
No, so let's really, what I think is also cool is we talk about access control, but we can monitor multiple different access controls from perspective VMS, right, Mike? So we could be monitoring doors in 5 different regions, right? Not 5 different facilities, right? Is that correct?
Exactly. And again, from the maps, you've got the ability to do exactly that, where, you've got the layering, where, again, this is obviously the location of Houston, but we do have other customers where they open up to, let's say, the state of Texas, and each of their locations is highlighted on the map, and you can drill down to that location to look at, individual doors, per location or per floor. So yeah, huge, I suppose, swing in technology, where this is where the networking portion is so key. And that's, I would say, is the biggest change in access control. They still open and close doors. It's how you access that information now compared to the good old days.
Right.
And one thing I'm thinking about is like a school district. I mean, we have many school districts, not only here in Texas, but all over the world, that are running access control and video. And so they're running, potentially, some of our school districts are running multiple schools across a wide region. And they can be managing their access control and monitoring their video for multiple sites within their region. And because of the permissions-based access, they can really monitor and fine-tune who's using different access control. Who's using who can see what in various different campuses.
Exactly.
For example, the security guard at an elementary school may not have access to the cameras at the high school that he's not assigned to. But the system administrator sitting back at a central office somewhere can monitor everything and have access to change his configuration, to potentially, add users, or even under an emergency situation, give first responders and police personnel access to log into the system at a specific site where they need to log in.
Yeah, and again, Keith, that's critical. I mean, you've got the ability to do a smart button as well within Perspective to actually do a lockdown as well, as long as we've got that permission with the access control to do that.
So not a system lockdown at a school at this point, but a lockdown on the security system to kick people out that aren't authorized to be on when they have a specific a situation occurring. For example, if Neil doesn't have a need to be on during an emergency situation, Mike, you as a system administrator can kick all the non-emergency personnel off, so Neil would lose access to log in at that point.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to throw another monkey wrench question to you, Mike. We've talked about using workflows and the side panel to check different things with access control. We've also used maps. Where else can we utilize our integration with Perspective VMS with access control?
Not too sure I understand what you mean. I mean, we can go.
We talked about certain places in the camera view.
We can go through the camera viewer. You can actually go for specific from the camera itself by double clicking, within the map of that specific camera. And then if there is a door associated to it, you can then control that door from that point.
Okay, that's why I was asking that question. And then I guess many different ways, and then also an archive, do the same thing for archive as well.
Correct. Again, a lot of people want to, we give them options. And again, I think we're all customers of someone, it's always a nice option. And again, what I'm doing now is just drilling down from a top map. But what we can actually do is go ahead and open up the camera that we've got located in the front lobby. And what we can do is go ahead and, of course, now that's a good point. That's something I have just noticed on this. Because we don't have access to this door, I can't control it from that camera.
Actually, Mike, the icon just changed, and that may be something that some people need to know. So if you stay there on that page, your icon has changed right there. It used to show a door icon right there where the lightning bolt is.
Yeah.
And in a brand new version 4.3, they've changed the icon because there may be other devices that you can control from Perspective VMS than just a door.
Outside and again,
to represent IP devices or IoT devices. So there might be other things that you could click there. In this particular instance, the lightning bolt represents the door control.
Mm-hmm. And then you can pick different doors. You can pick the storage room door or the main entrance. That's very cool.
And again, on this one mirrors what we saw on the main map, where I'm only able to do a pulse on this specific door.
So by putting that on the camera viewer, you actually have a video verification of the live view of that door, who's standing at it, before you actually pulse it to let them in.
Yeah.
So you have a different spot in security, and especially what school districts need to consider is, again, with active shooter or God forbid, or certain things where you want to protect yourself in that building, you don't have to be, the security team doesn't have to be so close to the door. They could be out in another region where there's a barrier and still be able to lock, unlock, and not have to look at specifically that camera and just jump right to that camera and do it right from camera viewer.
Yeah, good point.
There's a couple of other features that are helpful with access control. Talk about reports, Mike. How does access control affect your reports?
Again, reports can play into the audit trail where you're trying to maybe get information based around, let's say you have an audit company coming in and they're trying to check exactly the health of the machine, but also access. Why maybe there's a group of people that have access to, certain areas, and you can get a trail. Okay, this person used, the door swipe at these times for these specific days. So you can actually do a drill down as to, any kind of login you want to do within the system. Again, key around the audit trail where you want to find out information on the system usage. I'm just we can open some of the analytics and other reporting that we've got within the system.
Yeah. Another nice feature that's just been added that is nice for those installers is import devices. And we've had an import cameras capability for quite some time, or a camera discovery tool within Perspective VMS. But within the brand new version of the software, we've just added a capability of importing devices. And what that means is that you can search the network for things like access control readers to be able to import them right into the software via Perspective VMS. You don't have to add them independently, and you don't have to go necessarily directly to the access control software to be able to import them into the PVMS system. So that's very helpful for those installers that might be installing, dozens or hundreds of doors. They can just use that new feature to import the doors right into Perspective VMS.
Yeah, good point, Keith. I mean, again, that's another big change.
Wow, we've covered a lot in access control. And I tell you, I learned a lot today from Mike and Keith, but I always ask Keith to kind of summarize our learning experience today on what's your perspective regarding access control. What did we learn today, Keith?
Summarize quickly by saying physical security software is changing. And Mike's highlighted some really key features here of some great add-ons that Lensec has made in Perspective VMS. He mentioned Galaxy software, but we integrate with other major software companies, including RS2 and DSX. BadgePass is another good partner of ours. And then we're adding new softwares all the time, new parties. Credo ID is a brand new one that we added in version 4.3, which is done by Midpoint Security. And we're adding new access control software companies into our integration list all the time. So while we may be demonstrating Galaxy, we're actually running RS2 and BadgePass at our office as well. And then if you're running someone else at your location, that's okay. It's going to operate and look just like we've displayed it here. And we will work with the integration company, the third-party technology partner, to make sure that all of that works the way it's supposed to work. We test it thoroughly before we roll it out, and we're always adding integration partners all the time. But things have come a long way in the security industry, haven't they, Mike?
A lot of changes over the years. And again, it's nice to see where we were, but also where we're going.
Exactly.
It seems to change every other week.
I got to come up with some sort of technology, and then I could even that needs to come next. It's so interesting what's happening in the security industry and those integrations and all those different things, just to keep people secure and safe, especially during the pandemic and any type of violent situation or certain circumstance. You need to have the proper security, and this is the wave of the future, to go to a VMS type platform, especially an open platform like ourselves. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we want to create for you guys with our VMS the best physical security system on the planet. And with our system, we can do that. So, and work with the great partners that we work with and the great integrators. And Mike, I appreciate you stopping by again to What's Your Perspective. Thank you. And thank you again, Keith.
Thanks again.
I'm glad to be here.
All right. Now just go to lensec.com/live to catch up with all the episodes. Like us on all different social media, like and share this video, and tell others about Lensec. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks again.